You have a dice which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? It's a normal dice.
Yeah.
And you throw it every time, and every time it comes with 1.
Yeah.
He looks at it, normal, 1. Everyone here throws it at 1. No magnet, nothing. If everyone did that, and we did that 20 times, it's 1. Would you say this is just a luck, or there's something fishy going on?
I'd say we'd have to check what table we're on.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's when the Quran gets everything right, when the possibility is it should got all of it wrong by guesswork. Yeah. Only one chance to get it right, and it gets all of them right. So it's something else going on there, not guesswork.
I think my investigation then would rest on, I'd like to know what his knowledge was at the time then.
Excellent. That's precisely our point.
But I would be looking for environmental factors.
Exactly. All environment. All the knowledge of that time in Arabia, in Rome, in Persia, all around, and you'll find the information that we are presenting to you, information was not known.
Okay, yeah, look, no one's going to laugh. I think we're all on the same page, right?
Yeah. No.
So the reason I brought up the example of a bag, Daniel, the reason I brought the example of a bag is an illustration of many atheists in our experience, and our experience are limited, so I have to give you a disclaimer. Don't use critical thinking. They may be very familiar with the TikTok and how they operate, and then they have a following and so on, but that's all it is. They lack what I call essential property of critical thinking. Human beings, we need to use critical thinking, but I see atheists in particular, as well as many other religionists other than Islam, they lack critical thinking. So if we had used critical thinking, we would have come to the conclusion that our universe is rational, we can rationally explain it, and there is a cause behind our universe, a reason, a grounding to explain the existence of our universe, and that is not the universe. There is a necessary being that explains. The universe is not a necessary being, it's a contingent thing. Yeah, critical thinking will lead us to this point, but atheists, somehow, in my humble opinion and limited experience, they switch off in discussing this matter.
Hopefully Dan will be an exception to the rule. He seems like it, because you seem like you recognize that there are impossibilities in the world, that there are certain things that simply can't be reconciled because definitionally they're at odds with each other.
Let's test the waters then. So, can something come out of nothingness?
I don't know, that's a hard question.
You don't know?
I don't know, that sounds like something for a scientist.
But if you're thinking critically, what would be the answer?
Something to come out of nothing?
What is nothing for you, by the way? Again, colloquially.
I couldn't even begin to guess, no.
Okay.
Absence of?
The absence of
everything.
Sure, yeah.
Absence of everything. So, what do the rocks dream of?
The rocks dream? I don't think rocks dream, no.
They dream of nothing. They don't dream. That's the nothing I'm talking about. Nothing.
I don't think they have a consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't dream. So that thing that they don't dream, nothing, is what I mean by nothing. Absence of. Yeah? Something. If we exist now, could there be a time or a moment or instance in the past where there was absolute nothingness?
There could have been, yeah.
If there was nothingness, which doesn't have anything, how does it give rise to something?
I don't know. That's hard to say.
I do know.
I mean,
impossible. Impossible. By science and philosophy both together.
That's even more impossible than the actual things that we were putting to you and asking you whether something can exist and exist at the same time. At least you have a conceptual thing there to consider. In this instance, there is no thing. There's nothing. So if you were willing to grant a thing that exists being impossible in a particular situation, that should be, by necessity, a fortiori, even more true for something that absolutely doesn't exist whatsoever. So if you're saying one thing is impossible, that which is even lesser of a thing because it's nothing, you should acknowledge readily that that's impossible.
There's a German philosopher, I've forgotten her name, she describes 9 levels of nothingness. It's worth for you to look it up, it's well known. She's a scientist, philosopher, 9 levels of nothingness. And level 9 nothing is the absence of even potentialities, absence of divine entities and being, absence of abstract things, numbers, laws. potentialities. If I say...
You're saying they've discovered when nothingness began?
No, this is how we describe what we mean by nothing. For example, for example, imagine Hamza gives you a box as a present, okay? Because you've been very nice. And you open the box, and there's nothing in there. You say, oh look, there's nothing in there. But actually, it's not there's nothing in there. There's lots of things in there. Space, time, quantum fluctuation, do you realize? So that nothing that you said initially is level 1 nothing. It doesn't mean absence of everything, that's only level 1. So when we go there, you say, okay, you know what, okay, let me vacuum out the air. So now you have no air, okay? But you still have space. Let me take space out. So if you keep on removing, eventually, everything you remove, even potentialities, you're left up with a concept called absolute nothingness, level 9. From that level 9 nothing, which is absence of everything, if that thing existed, you and I would never be here. Because that cannot do anything, because it doesn't even have the potentiality.
Okay. And did you say this was a philosopher or a scientist?
Yeah, his name is
Both.
Robert Kuhn. Kuhn, did you mention? Okay, that's what Google brought up. So look,
Okay, I'll bring it up while you're talking.
so he's brought up the notion of nothingness, i.e. nothingness cannot bring about something. We have another option, that the universe has always been here. Now, I found it interesting that you were speaking about your experiences in life and how you use those experiences to determine things in life.
Okay,
Right? You reach certain
it's
conclusions,
okay.
make
I don't-
inferences, whatever.
as long as people can hear me.
Assumption we go by. Because what else do we go by other than the sum total of our experiences and the sum total of the experiences of our fellow human beings? Right? We have to have some level of trust there. Would it be fair to say that there are certain
You're right.
things?
Robert Lawrence Kuhn, yeah, that's him. And he describes all the levels, level 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way. Level 9 nothing is this absolute nothingness, the elimination of all possible realities, potential and being. From that, if such a thing existed, something will never arise. If something exists now, the question is, could there have been a level 9 nothingness where there's absolute nothing?
Is that a theory? 9 levels?
This is concepts.
It's more philosophical.
Concepts.
Philosophical than anything.
Okay, so
But I think
it's an idea.
yeah, it's an idea, but I think it's grounded in the sum total of our reality.
I mean, yeah, it's a reasonable assumption to make and then draw
Because look,
9 levels of it. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable thing to arrive at.
science itself is established.
I don't know much.
Yeah, sure, nor do I. But science itself is established upon the law of causality. Right?
I don't know, yeah.
So causes and effects bring about information that we can use, extrapolate, make predictions, test, and if the tests don't hold up to scrutiny, if the theory doesn't hold up to scrutiny, because those tests are failing, we throw the tests away, we go back to the inferences, we look at the world, make inferences, so on and so forth, right? So would it, just as my brother Mansur has demonstrated that the idea of nothingness cannot bring about something, would you say that the present moment in time, the present that we have, that doesn't require any type of evidence, that we all share the present moment?
I don't think nothing requires.
So, putting aside nothingness, right?
Okay.
Just as it's so obvious that nothingness doesn't have the potential to bring about something.
Okay.
Would it also be just as equally likely that the present moment, we all share it, we all move through it, we don't time travel back in the past, we don't time travel into the future?
Is it equally likely as nothing bringing about something? I don't know. I'd say
Do you need evidence for it? The fact that you're living it, do you need evidence for the fact that the present moment is what we all occupy?
I think you would have a colloquial understanding of what the present is to you, but going in more depth and having more detail to define what the present is, I would have to leave up to someone more in depth and involved in that.
Experientially then?
Experientially, colloquially, the present for me, is it as likely as...
No. Forget the likeliness. Is the present moment in time, in our present moment, experientially, do you need evidence for that? Any type of empirical evidence? Or is it so obvious that you'll take it as a given?
I don't think I'd need evidence, no.
No, you just wake up in the morning, right? Each moment comes along, you just take it for granted, and you carry on with life. No one needs to tell you that you need evidence for the present moment.
Yeah,
right?
I suppose so, yeah.
Okay. Do you believe the present moment could have come about without the past?
Without the past, what landed me here in this corner?
Exactly. All those causes and effects that brought you here, your decision to wake up in the morning, put your clothes on,
Oh yeah, no. If I hadn't been on a TikTok live last night, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, exactly. So in other words, we recognize certain obvious ways of deduction. We live in the present moment. We require the past to have brought us to the present moment. Now, if the universe was eternal, would you agree that there would be an eternal number of causes extending back into the eternal past? With no beginning.
That's in terms of its age, though. I don't know if they would need eternal causes to eternally exist, no?
Because what we're doing is we're whittling down the options in relation to the universe's existence. Either the universe came about from nothing, or the universe has always been here. There is a third choice, which is I don't want to think about it. Take the key out, throw it away, and walk away.
Yeah.
But I don't think human beings should live like that.
Nothing, or it's always been here. That's a good question.
What's your take?
I'm going to say, I mean, I can only, this is my prediction for science. I'm going to say it did come out of nothing. How, I don't know, but it came out of nothing.
Sure.
So nothing can make something.
I think so, yeah. In that case, I don't know how, but yeah, I think it did.
But nothing doesn't have the ability to make anything.
I don't know.
So how do you reason? If something doesn't have the ability, for example,
Well, I'm trying to
do you have the ability to speak Urdu? Speak Punjabi, Urdu, Hindi? No. So if you don't have the ability, can you speak?
No.
So if nothing doesn't have the ability to bring about anything, how do you accept that nothing brought something?
I mean, I could take a stab. Maybe if I took a stab at Punjabi and I hit the right word, congratulations. And I would imagine...
No, speak to me fluently in Punjabi.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is, if there was nothing for a long amount of time, imagine that you had a million chances to try and create from nothing.
There is no
something.
time in nothingness.
So if I stood
Nothing
here,
doesn't have time.
But I'm saying, if I stood here for like 100 days and said enough words at you...
But Daniel, you missed the whole
Bad
point.
analogy.
It's a bad
This nothing doesn't have anything. No tense, no past, no present, no future.
Nothing that we understand.
This is the conceptually what we mean by nothing. Absolute nothingness is the absence of everything. That includes time, space, fabric. That includes the white hole as well as the black hole.
Well, maybe my prediction's wrong then. Maybe there was something.
No, there cannot be nothing. There has to be always something. Because if you say there can be absolute nothingness, then give us a reason that something that is absolutely nothing, devoid of even time, potentiality, and ability, how does it make about something? How are we reasoning?
He said just now that maybe I was wrong. Maybe there is something rather than nothing.
But it's not about maybe. It's a question of definitely. That's how we infer.
But nobody knows yet. That's why it's
Nobody knows.
If you're saying that maybe I was wrong, which is a noble position, maybe he's backtracking. Maybe he's saying, you know what?
At least that's
the
a
idea of
progress.
nothingness is so implausible that there has to be something. But this goes back to now the issue I brought up with you, which was that therefore the universe must be eternal. If there was something, it doesn't have an absolute beginning, therefore it exists indefinitely.
What makes it have to exist indefinitely from the beginning of the universe?
Because otherwise there would be a beginning to it, an absolute beginning point, which would then raise the question that Mansur brought up with you, which was that nothingness is the explanation.
Okay. I mean, by that logic, then maybe it's eternal. Then, yeah.
Yeah. So I was saying to you that since the sum total of our experiences have it that the present moment couldn't have come about except through immediately past causes, if the universe is eternal, these causes have to extend back in time, one moment before another, indefinitely.
In the
No
past.
beginning past. No beginning to that past, right?
Okay.
Now, if there's no...
Circular, maybe? I don't know.
No, not even circular. An absurdity. Because if there's no beginning, and you acquire one cause to bring about the next cause in time, which then brings about the next cause in time thereafter, up until the point that we reach the present, since there's no beginning, you can go back an infinite amount of time and you still have an infinite. Could we have traversed those moments to reach the present moment in time?
I think it's something that maybe could be self-creating, maybe by having no beginning and no end. But it's sort of, I think it's.
Remember, there is no.
It's like self
replicating. Replicating.
Yeah, sort of like. I mean, you could say cause. I'm thinking of a different word, but yeah, it's sort of like self-actualizing. That's the word.
Self-actualizing.
Yeah. Sort of self-actualizing.
So when you have things that exist in time,
yeah.
Can you, in your experiences, can you come across any type of? Can you give me any type of example where something didn't require a cause prior to for its existence, or causes?
I don't know. I haven't got any examples for that. No.
I don't have any either. The sum total of my experiences, and I'm hoping I talk on behalf of the Muslims here as well, is that everything points to something preceding the existence of something, being preceded by the existence of something before it that it requires to come into existence or to come through, to come into existence, if you will, right? To transform. I don't know of any example where something exists where it doesn't require any cause before it for its existence. So if that's true, I think it's reasonable therefore to infer that if there's an infinite number of causes that extend into the past, we wouldn't have been able to reach the present because self-replicating causes don't exist in the world.
Should we give an example to illustrate that point?
I don't know, if I could ask a question, then it would be like, what would then lead you, if there was a cause, to then lead it to be a divine being?
That cause would be necessary.
Sorry?
That cause has to be necessary.
It would be outside the realm of causes that are dependent upon each other within the created world.
So you're imagining it would have to be spiritual outside of...
It cannot be material.
Immaterial, sorry.
No?
Sorry, what's the word you said?
So people think about space, time, matter. It cannot be any of that. It will be unlike that. It will be necessarily different from contingent realities like us.
Oh. Is there not a word you would use to describe it?
Yeah, the greatest conceivable being, or the greatest conceivable thing. The reason why we say being is as follows. And again, this comes back to the experiences that we have in life. Can you think of anything in existence devoid of attributes?
Not off the top of my head, no.
No, nor can I. So the fact that something exists, many philosophers and scholars will tell you, requires at least one attribute: existence.
Okay.
The thing exists in time, it requires the attribute of time, for instance, right? Dimensions, whatever. So if we recognize that as our experiences in life, the thing that brought the universe into existence has to have certain essential attributes. And I think that's a reasonable assumption to come to based upon our experiences in life.
I wouldn't jump to, I mean, if we can't explain it by using natural laws and whatever else that you were discussing, space and time and stuff.
Excellent, natural laws.
Yeah, I don't think my jump would be to a divine
Let's
being.
not jump. Let's not jump. I agree with him. Let's not jump.
Sorry, no, I won't use the word jump if that's okay.
No, I agree with you. We agree. Let's not jump.
We won't jump to the divine.
Natural laws are like codes and information, tells you what to do and not to do. Like the laws of gravity tells you a bigger object will pull smaller objects or lesser heavy object towards its center. Yep, that's what it does. That's why you're here on Earth rather than floating in space.
Yeah.
These laws, do you think they're conscious?
Conscious laws? Wow. I don't think they are.
Yeah, neither do I. So the problem that now we both of us have, if laws are not conscious, how do they operationalize these laws into reality, into action? That law that tells you, okay, I'm going to put it there in place, and then the moment there are two objects, bigger and heavier, and one lighter, one heavier, the heavier object will pull the lighter object towards itself. It will be in operation. How do the laws make themselves in operation?
I think it would be a case of cause and effect.
Explain. I don't understand anything about by that.
Gravity became necessary, so gravity was formed. That's how I would guess that.
When you have a law, highway, do you drive?
I do drive, yeah.
Yeah. You've read the highway code?
A long time ago.
Long time ago. It tells you, like, in motorway, you can speed only up to this number of miles per hour, 70 miles per hour in a dual carriageway and so on. And when you see red light, you have to stop. Green light, go. Now, all of these are precise instructions and information which are really meaningful. This highway code itself cannot really, by itself, put things in operation saying, hey, stop, that's a red light. It doesn't even know it exists. These are pixels on a page of a book. It cannot do anything by itself. If you leave the highway code in the motorway, it cannot implement anything. It cannot say, you know what, this book tells you you can only speed up to 70 miles per hour, don't go exceed. You can't do that. Okay. So the laws exist in our universe. How do the laws operationalize in reality?
Well, I think the highway code came around by cause and effect, like people driving over 70.
Not cause and effect. Intelligent, willful, precision design.
Do you think causes and effects don't have attributes?
Well, typically laws are written in blood like that, no? That's why people don't speed in 30.
Sure, but do you think that the causes and effects that brought about the highway code don't have attributes?
Attributes like what?
Attributes like inferring to that the source having some level of power, it's willing to bring the laws into existence, it having a certain level of knowledge to look at the world around them, the cars, the motorway, and say, well, we need it to travel at a certain speed but not beyond it, and certainly not less than a certain speed. In other words, the information that's contained within the highway code shouldn't it push you towards the conclusion that there has to be, the cause and effects have to have certain necessary attributes? According to your experiences in life.
I think the highway code was created by people who were interested in keeping the roads safe.
Intelligent people with intelligence, meaning. So they have attributes.
Okay.
Attributes of knowledge, ability and will and self-awareness. Four essential characteristics. The highway code otherwise would not come into existence. So our universe have physical laws in operation. They don't know that they exist, and yet they operate in our physical world. How so?
How do these natural laws come about?
Now you ask what come about, that's another question I could have asked.
How do they operate?
But how do they operate? Who operationalizes these laws into actions in reality?
I think essentially themselves.
They're not conscious.
There was a need, and so they.
There was no need because they're not conscious.
Possibilities, right?
I mean, the laws are conscious, right?
Yeah, but the mountains were created not by any conscious thought, were they? They were caused by plates on the earth.
The something that came into existence at one point, because of a law that directed it to be that way.
But I mean, there's plenty of things around us that have no consciousness, and yet they are created.
They're following the law. Give me an example that doesn't follow a law. One example, out of zillions of examples. One, just one.
Like, what kind of laws are we talking?
Biological laws?
Laws in operation. There are many laws in operation. Give me an example of a thing that happens, a transformation that happens, any transformation that doesn't follow a law that has been set in operation.
I think everything follows a law that we understand so far,
Exactly. To our knowledge, everything follows a law. But here is the question, we're going back to the same question again. What operationalizes this law into action? Because the laws themselves are not conscious and saying, you know what, I'm going to now exert this law. Heavier object will pull a lighter object. No, they can't. They don't do that. They don't know they exist. Like, do you think the highway code knows it exists?
There's a piece of paper? No.
Exactly. So you can't do anything.
So it can't be nothing, and it can't be an infinite number of causes, because otherwise the very laws that we require to make the highway code, we wouldn't have been able to arrive at that point. The third option is that there was a being outside of this that must have the necessary attributes to implant within the universe the very laws for the universe to transform from a point of existence to the complicated universe we find today. So those essential attributes, I think, again, we can infer, but I think it's reasonable to say that these essential attributes have to be power, because the thing that's powerless is as good as non-existent.
Or ability, if you want to say.
Ability, like power, ability are synonyms. knowledge, the fact that it must have had some level of knowledge such that it implanted within the world what the scientists talk about, the fundamental laws, the weak, strong electromagnetism, gravity, and so on and so forth, right? The nuclear forces, and volition. Will, right? We all do things through our will. A dog does it, a cat does it, a parrot does it, right? It will to bring the universe into existence. So for us, that points to a very, very strong, plausible explanation of a creator. I think the word creator fits these attributes that we attribute to this being.
Okay.
And we can't think of any other explanation that's better than that.
The best explanatory scope of our existence is inferring an intelligent creator, an originator. Anything as an alternative doesn't have that explanatory scope.
And there's a verse of the Quran about this, isn't it? There's a verse in the Quran that pretty much sums it up. It's a threefold question, rhetorical in nature. It begins, were they created by nothing? Or did they create themselves? Or were they the creators of the heavens and the earth, meaning the universe? No, they have no certainty. They don't have certain knowledge, i.e. the atheists, essentially, or the agnostics who are sitting at the fence. These threefold questions should push them to the inevitable conclusion, well, there must be a creator of all things. And from there, we can then ask the question, if this creator is the greatest conceivable being, i.e. it brought the universe into existence, it has to have attributes of the umpteenth degree. You can't get attributes that are greater than what it possesses. So power, knowledge, wisdom, you can...
And look at it in a different way. If something exists always, necessarily, they exist with attributes, and that attribute is not acquired from anyone. No one gave the attributes. So inherently possesses attributes always. So these attributes will not have any restriction because there's no one to restrict it. So the attributes will be perfect, free from any deficiencies and weaknesses.
We can't say that being what brought it into existence, like some people ask, because if we ask that question, the same question that bedeviled what brought the universe into existence would now apply to that source. And then we would have an infinite regress of causes being applied to what caused that cause to bring the universe into existence. The only way out of this, rationally speaking, is that this cause must have been eternal. And this is what Mansur says.
So that's why some atheists come to the point that the universe is actually eternal. Okay, grant that nothing cannot make something, but our universe is eternal and its explanation of itself. Because anything that exists, it has either of the two possible explanations. Either it is explaining its own existence, self-explanatory, or it needs an explanation external to it. There's only two options. Either you are necessary and you don't need to depend on anything and everything. You explain your own existence. Or something else is grounding your existence. Something brought you into existence, for example. So if the universe is thought of this way, the universe is own explanation of its existence, it's a logical possibility. But it doesn't show that it is something that is meaningful in its explanatory scope. Because anything that is necessary with its own explanation, it has to have these essential characteristics of doing transformation. It has to have a will, ability, knowledge, and self-awareness. What I was going to explain earlier on, do you cook sometimes?
Yeah, I like to cook, yeah.
What do you cook? What's your favorite dish?
Oh, I do a decent spaghetti pasta.
Spaghetti pasta. Okay.
Do you drink wine or is
no,
alcohol's off?
Alcohol's off.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Befocus the mind.
De-alcoholized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Befocus the mind. So the living guidance is stay away from something that is not better for you. Eat healthy and pure. Okay. Right. And then, by the way, the consensus from the World Health Scientists and Organization, including WHO, the safest level of consumption of alcohol is, guess what?
I'm guessing you're going to say zero.
Zero. Okay. Out of more than 150 or 80 countries, all countries together, this is the current consensus. Anyway, that's not the point. So you like spaghetti pasta. Imagine you want to cook spaghetti pasta in your kitchen.
Yeah.
And you are not conscious. You are in a deep sleep. Would you be able to make spaghetti pasta?
It's not looking likely that way.
Very unlikely. I agree. Very unlikely. But suppose you are conscious, but you don't intend to make it. You make coffee, tea, you make sandwiches, but you never intend to make, as in your whole life, spaghetti pasta. Would a spaghetti pasta be made by you?
If I'd never intended to make one?
Yeah.
I mean, you could drug me and someone could puppet me like...
Yeah, if you don't want to, willingly, it never happen, right?
Yeah.
Very unlikely, never happen. But suppose you intend to make it, and you're conscious, and you're willing, but you don't have the ability, because your friend here, Umar, ties you up in the chair, sellotape, eyes covered, hands, so you can't even program your robot to make pasta.
Yeah.
What's the likelihood when you're incapacitated, when you don't have the ability?
I know, pretty strong.
Very unlikely. Very unlikely, yeah.
How many times do you go to the gym?
4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah, I'm not
Right. Now, suppose,
It's very unlikely.
Daniel, suppose you have the ability and the will and the self-awareness, but you don't know the know-how. So go into your kitchen, you take a glass and throw in the floor, pick up the small pieces and say, there you go, pasta spaghetti.
Yeah.
If it's a good spaghetti and Daniel presented it to us and we ate it, without knowing Daniel gave it to us, we would know by necessity that there was a person, a certain attributes, very good cook, who made a damn good spaghetti.
So that broken,
Yeah, I agree. I'm a great cook.
broken glasses, pieces of broken glass, wasn't spaghetti. So you need to know what you're making. You need to know know-how. So what we've given you, these 4 essential characteristics of any transformation: self-awareness, will, ability, and knowledge. There's more. 4 is sufficient.
Yeah.
And I mean, does this make sense so far, or does it seem reasonable at the very least?
I see the analogy. Yeah, it's just when we come to the creation of the universe and we're presented with only 3 options, I'd probably create a 4th one, which didn't involve a god for me.
Which is what?
This is where you
That's what we can discuss about it.
Well, I think when we arrive on a god and then we start looking at all the rules, personally to me, they seem a little arbitrary.
Forget the God explanation. So what's your explanation for the universe existing with these laws in operation?
Well,
A coherent, logical, reasonable explanation with an explanatory
yeah, but logically, if we've excluded options 1, 2, and God's the 3rd, I'm creating a 4th in which I don't know what goes there, but that's the answer.
No, I don't know. It's never. If you go to an exam,
I don't know is a fantastic answer.
look. If you go to an exam, and I'm marking your paper, the 10 questions, multiple choice, and you just say, I don't know. What am I going to give you as a mark?
0.
0. Why?
Well, because when you
I don't know was a good answer, right?
it is a good answer when you don't.
But why am I giving 0? Because that's not the correct answer.
Well, yeah. Well, if I don't have the answer,
Daniel,
for
you know
then
what?
you can't demand it.
Yeah, you know, I see where you're going with this, but it goes against everything that you said at the beginning, which prompted us to have this discussion. A very, very strong, solid foundation, which was experiences in life, rationality. Now, I don't think that you, Daniel, dress smartly the way you do, being articulate, having acquired an education, go through life based upon I don't knows. You go
I live
through
a lot of my day on I don't know.
yeah, but not. This wouldn't be the unreasonable I don't know, where you just don't do anything. The fact that you've arrived at this point in life tells me that you're constantly weighing up the information that you have regarding life, and you make the best explanation.
Let's give you an example and carry on your thoughts. You are hungry. You want some food. So you go to Oxford Street and you see all these restaurants and you say, I don't know which one's best.
Yeah.
And you keep being so undecisive. I don't know, this one, that one, cheap, expensive, good, bad. Is that what you're going to do? I don't know. You're going to be pragmatic and say, I'm going to take that because I'm hungry, I'm going to eat it. Which one are you going to do?
On a perfect day, I would be pragmatic. Well, on another day, if I dither and quote, and then the restaurant's closed and there's no food
No,
to
the restaurant's
be
open. All of the restaurants are open. And you're really hungry. And you're still singing, I don't know. Is that what you're going to do?
I mean, I might dither, yeah.
You might just give up and saying, I don't know, and you don't eat.
I might have to dither if I truly am that locked in my head. I'd have to
so
say,
he goes
oh,
to
I
sleep
guess I'm
hungry.
eating today.
You will sit hungry, right?
I'd have to go hungry, yeah.
And then in the morning,
Oh yeah, you'd have to go hungry, wouldn't you?
And then
You
in the
truly
morning?
can't make a decision.
And what happens the next day? And the next day? And the next day?
You'd be pretty hungry and then you die, yeah.
Oh, is that what you will do?
And then you'd probably be.
Is this what will you do?
I mean, some people don't eat.
No,
and they
you.
just die.
Daniel, is that what will you do?
I've never been driven to those limits. I don't
Think
know
about
what
it.
I'd do.
It's a thought experiment. What would you do?
I might die. I don't know.
no, but no.
I mean, okay.
Reasonably.
Personally, I think I would eat. I
You
think
would
something, right?
You would try your best, wouldn't you?
Whatever
I
makes
think
the most sense to pick, you pick.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that despondent about life that I would just leave myself to die.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's reasonable.
But some people are.
Well, some people are, but they are the extreme exception to the rule.
But they exist though.
No problem. But we're not talking about the extreme exception when we talk about our life experiences.
Okay.
We go by the majority, the way the world lives. The fact that human beings don't just, in the majority, give up and die of starvation tells us that they are driven by the laws that we are speaking about. Ingrained within ourselves, ingrained within nature, quote unquote. We are driven by looking at the world around us, making preponderant decision making. We look at the evidences before us. We decide, you know what? Rather than me dying, I'm gonna go. If I don't have any money, I'm gonna beg. It's better for me to beg than to die. That's what the majority would do. We're not talking about the exception to the rule. So the point that we're trying to make to you, Daniel, is that the sum total of your experiences, the way you live life, pushes you towards making decisions based upon the best explanation, the one that's most probable, most reasonable,
Most sensible.
most sensible. Now, if that's true for the mundane things, like for instance, you deciding that you're going to use that lip gloss on your lips, you would rather it be wet rather than dry, because going home to your wife or your girlfriend or whatever is not a good idea, right? Unless you enjoy slaps. Or you wearing your clothes. All of that is based upon the very, very daily day-to-day activities where we go around making mundane decisions. Now, what about the most important decisions in life? Ones that may affect our very moral makeup, how we decide what is good and bad.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's obvious that if we're going to hold to the way we live life for certain seemingly unimportant things, it makes more sense that that should be applied even more so to the most important things in life.
Okay. So how would I decide what's good or
So in
bad?
other words, the I don't know, the fourth option that you're coming with, I don't know, shouldn't be an option at all. Because
I think it is when you've
such
got,
a fundamental. I mean, either unless you're scared.
No, I think it is when there are people around you who have a better answer. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, then this is where you do you do your research, derive more education.
But you know, before everyone came in, you were talking about science, right? Isn't that just other people with more evidence and you're just following them? Isn't that the same thing here?
Based upon the explanation.
Like before you guys came, we were talking about like why he believes in what he believes in, and correct me if I'm wrong. You were saying that how whatever scientists come to conclude, you're just going to believe in that.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
Right.
You're trusting the
If a religious
scientists.
person brings evidence forth and it makes sense, and in the moment it makes the most sense out of everything else, then why wouldn't you believe
Look,
in that as well?
science itself, just to quickly jump in,
It's the
for us,
same thing.
science itself can't be the be-all and end-all of it all.
Exactly, yeah.
Because the very basis of science takes into considerations philosophies that, by the strictest definitions of science, you'd have to reject.
Okay.
You'd have to reject because there are certain things that we infer that we don't see with our eyes.
Okay.
We haven't heard with our ears.
Like gravity.
Yeah, they use like tools to detect gravity these days.
They use tools or they use the information that
Detect gravitational waves, don't they?
Nah, that's magnetism. So we measure objects that experience gravity.
Yes.
We
If
measure
gravity
how
itself
quickly
doesn't
they
exist.
accelerate. But we don't actually.
I could have sworn I heard they detected gravitational waves.
No,
that's
that's purely theoretical in nature.
That's magnets.
There's no actual evidence of gravity as a force that you can put in a jar and measure like you can do matter.
Okay.
Likewise, time. Likewise, space. There's no such thing as space. What we determine as space is the measurement that we use through the use of an arbitrary means to determine one thing in relation to another. Likewise, time. It's the measurement of a period in relation to one thing against another. And yet we still take those concepts into consideration to make good science. Why? Because there are certain fundamentals that go beyond science and that are rooted in the human being itself, the human being psyche, their knowledge. Like the law of non-contradiction, the law of bivalence, the idea that something exists and you take that as a truth claim. And then you decide, okay, it exists, that's true. It can't exist and not exist at the same time. Why? Because that's false. Or it exists, or it doesn't exist, and that's true. This is the way we human beings have as a law implanted within us by the lawgiver to determine certain fundamentals. And science just takes that for granted. It has to, in order to make truth claims. So in other words, science can't, how would you describe it, make true? It can't verify the very bedrock that it requires to make truth claims about.
Science have these philosophical assumptions already, otherwise science won't work.
Began in a very accepting way that if you worry about what you don't know before you try and find out what you can with what you know right now, I don't think you would ever move. You would stay in one place. And I think that while science may not understand everything and it's based on something that they don't yet understand, they accepted that and moved forward with what they did know, and they would then circle back to it when they have the
But Daniel, do you know critical thinking scientists, when they look at the evidence, like for example the design in your DNA, the information code, all the pathways downstream DNA, and looking at so much organization and harmony, this pathway, if it blocks, it opens up another pathway. This is evidence in front of us. When you look at, for example, certain animals like crickets and like this, how they have mechanism of gearing. Wow, like cogs, and it's like that, this, all this, and then they jump. Or bacterial flagella, how there's a rotor and a motor. It's amazing engineering and design. But we are told this just came by millions of years of random mutation and chance probabilities and natural selection and so on. A lot of magic in a nutshell, that's what it is. But when you look at the cell itself, it's not magic, it's precision engineering. If you studied science and you look at it, if you studied genetics and you look at it, you will say, this is the evidence of clear design. And yet we don't see the design like, oh, I need to know who made this bag to believe that the bag is made. No, I don't. I can see design features. Look, when I see the design features in the cell, how ribosome play a part in, say, transcription and translation of DNA in the machinery, and the ribosomes, these are proteins which are made with the DNA coding. One is required for the other, and the other is required for the other. Catch-22. How does that happen? It's not only that, it's like this integral whole is a whole system, and yet we don't see any design. I mean, what is design to you?
I think... Oh, go on. Did you want to say something?
No, go on. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Well, they were asking me about design. I mean, personally, I think it's... And I don't mean this in an offensive way. It's a touch arrogant to assume that only intelligent design can bring forth things like...
To give me an example of a non-intelligent brings design precise like a micro... Like this phone. Look, my phone is almost...
Of whatever fly you mentioned or a bumper.
Look,
I think that they are capable of...
Let's understand that. This phone can be brought about by non-intelligent designer, right?
Okay.
Yeah? So look, I have a notification for someone.
That's a phone though, not a fly.
No, a fly is more complex than the phone. So I'm using a lesser complex to illustrate my point. Can this be explained by a non-intelligent designer from the start to finish? That it wasn't designed by any intelligent designer at all. It just happened by some agency which is not like this rock designed it.
It's not likely, is it?
Why not?
Oh, because it's in that shape, it's made...
Are you being arrogant now?
No, I shouldn't have said that.
No, I'm not using this as a colloquially. Remember they used the word, we are arrogant to accept that? No, it's not arrogant to accept that this thing cannot come about by a rock designing it. It's not arrogance. It is what we call informed choice and inference from the available evidence. It leads us to this way. When you see all, look, have you heard of SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence?
I've never heard of it, no. I know that people search for extra...
Why would they spend billions of dollars when it could be just all noise by chance saying, hello, I am from planet this, Xeon.
For discovery.
It could be all just noise, background noise by chance, formulating this frequency, right?
Yeah, but we've never explored space on any
No, you know.
We have to some degree.
If you receive some frequency and decode and says, hey, this is Peter from planet Xeon, few 100 million galaxies away, I would still say, look, this is just free sound frequencies coming here and there in the machine formulating it. But why are we spending billions of dollars in this particular project? Because we expect these frequencies when they arrive to be meaningful.
Yeah.
So this thing Why am I saying this cannot come from this? Because it's not meaningful to assert that this rock can design a phone like that. So when I see the DNA and the fly, you know what? The Quran, which you probably haven't read, right?
No.
The Quran talks about the status or stance of people who don't believe or people who associate things to God, the Creator. He says, look, ضُرِبَ مَثَلًا فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ. This is a parable given to you, so listen carefully. Those who associate besides God to Him, it's like this, like they can't even create a fly, even if they came together. And if a fly snatches something away from them, they won't be able to retrieve it. ضَوْفَ الطَّالِبُ وَالْمَطْلُوبُ. This is, I think, how it ends. How weak and feeble is the one who's seeking and one is sought. Do you know when a fly snatches your food away, can you retrieve it?
I don't rate my odds, no.
Do you know what happens when the fly tries to collect food, eat food?
It like rubs it on it, doesn't it?
It has this proboscis, and it spits something on the food.
That's nasty.
No, it does deliberately, by design.
They do it on purpose to help.
By design. What it does, they do is they spit digestive enzymes to partly digest the food.
Okay.
And then sucks it in. So when it's taken in, you've already got food that is cooked.
Okay.
Can you retrieve that food from it? You can't.
Yeah.
Can you unfry an egg when it's fried?
I don't rate my odds, no.
You can't.
It's impossible.
So now look at how God is using this example 1440 something years ago. Do you think people know about this phenomenon?
Do people know about how the universe was created? Sorry.
Yeah, that too. But this one about the fly.
Oh, about the fly?
Yeah. That the fly uses this enzymes.
We talked about this earlier. So all of these things that the Quran talks about, how
this information.
like the scientists back then weren't as advanced. How would they know certain things like this were true? How would the Prophet, for example, know, or God know, or whoever made these claims, whoever you might believe made these claims? How would they know that the way a fly digests food, right? You see how it's quite complicated. It's not like a human being where the amylase in the mouth breaks down the sugar, and etc. etc. For a fly, it's very different. How would anyone know that that's the way that?
Let's give some basic level examples.
I think it would be whatever he knows, and he would have to make an inferred guess.
Yeah, guesswork. Guess. It's a good.
If it's him who said it.
It's a good explanation. Guesswork. Using guesswork, describe me a mountain.
How it was created or what?
No, just a mountain. The shape of it.
I'd say it's roughly like a volcano shape, So slopes, gets thinner at the top.
Describe me a mountain. Yeah? Okay.
Same way.
Right. So now, is that it? That's it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based on
But what
I can infer, yeah.
But what if I told you, which you couldn't guess, and you couldn't guess as well? It's not nothing wrong with that. Mountains, it's not just elevation of the ground, like this. It's derivation downwards, farther down than elevation. They have roots.
That sounds familiar, actually. Yeah.
But you can't guess that.
Volcanoes do that.
But can you guess it? Can you? The question now is, Daniel, can you guess mountains have roots? Can you dig up and say it has roots? You can't. It's not visible.
I mean, if you've got some sort of way that you would
technology.
With modern technology, with sonar.
How people used to.
Right, exactly. You see how science,
with sonars we can now.
Technology, you kind of realize this.
Right.
But 1400 years ago, it would be.
Did they have sonars then?
With a shovel, a man with a shovel, for example, it would be really difficult and pretty much impossible for him to know that, basically.
And the Quran describes mountains as autad, having roots. Like when you go and erect a tent and you have pegs that you put on the ground. Part of it is there up, and the rest of it is underground. This is how the Quran describes.
Would you not maybe infer that maybe they took the idea from trees? Maybe they looked at trees and saw they have roots, and they applied it to mountains.
Yeah, good. But why didn't anyone come up with this explanation? But anyway, no literature exists.
I mean, it would depend what your interest is.
So maybe it's a guesswork. Let's play this guesswork. You know that underneath dead volcanoes there are pink flying elephants, right?
I didn't know that. No, are there?
Can we not guess?
I'd guess not, but if,
Why not?
if someone had been down there, they took a photo and said there's pink elephants, and I saw.
No, it's a guesswork, right?
I'd guess no. I'd guess no.
So why are we not guessing certain things?
Why are we not guessing certain things?
Yeah.
Because we've not taken interest in them yet.
Well, it seems unlikely.
Right. Have you been to deep oceans? Have you been sailing, diving?
No.
No. Do you know that shallow seas have under what's it called, internal waves, not on the surface?
Oh yeah.
Shallow, yeah, you can guess that. Like so when you go to a normal shallow pond or a lake, they have internal waves on the surface when the wind blows, and waves from the middle, right?
Yeah.
No. So how did you guess that? It doesn't exist.
I mean, can you feel this with your body? If you...
It doesn't exist though. It doesn't exist. I just made it up, but you guessed it. So how did you? So let's focus on this. How did you guess when it doesn't exist?
Are we talking about currents?
I'm talking about currents in a lake, currents in a pond, currents in a sea.
He told you that there's waves beneath that as well.
We're talking about the sea, right?
The sea. He said shallow.
Shallow seas.
But he completely made it up. The fact
you thought you'd guess it.
One, but you didn't believe about the elephants. The pink
Yeah.
The
elephants.
sea has a current.
No. Waves that
Not
exist on the water.
not the top
Said that they also
surface.
exist below the water, sea level.
Oh, I misunderstood.
Okay.
okay.
So you could have just guessed like a pond also have, deep down, maybe about 20 meters down, if it's deep enough, there's also waves, right? You could have said, yeah, I could have guessed it, but it doesn't exist.
Okay.
These currents only exist in Bahrul Wajji, deep oceans.
Okay.
Now, who could have guessed that?
Someone who was familiar with the sea, I guess.
No, you can't observe it. You can't deep down. 1400 years ago, you don't have submarines. You don't have the diving gear, and you can't go beyond certain pressure.
The lower you go in water, the more pressure builds up. Obviously, it's not safe, especially without modern technology. You'd just collapse. You wouldn't be able to. You'd suffocate.
Okay.
Even
Right.
especially without diving gear, you would have to come off air eventually. So as far as human beings can go, those waves are just below that.
Maybe it'd be the product then of what is moved by the current. Maybe wherever the current began, something was.
These things are noticeable when you have a satellite in space and you can take a picture.
Right.
My desktop screen has that picture exactly from somewhere in some of the oceans. You can observe it. You can observe the clouds, and you can observe the surface waves and the waves below her.
So we've given 3 examples, the cumulative evidence, right?
So when we give examples after examples, so what I'm making a point is not to bore with you and shock you with all this so-called amazing example, is to illustrate a point about statistics and probability. When we want to just guess, if you want to guess about something, whether it's correct or not, the probability is 50-50. That's 1/2, half. If you have 2 situations, I'm going to test your maths now, if you so willing. If you have 2 situations, you want to get both of them right by guesswork. What's the probability?
Out of 2, it'd be 50-50, yeah?
No, it's 1/2 times 1/2. It's because 1/4, quarter.
Basically.
Oh,
Right. So it multiplies like that. If you have 20 instances,
yeah.
the probability is roughly 1 chance of getting it right and 1,000,000 chance of getting them wrong. So if I give you 20 examples from the Quran,
Yeah.
and they're all right, there was only 1 chance of getting it right and 1,000,000 chance of getting it wrong, and you got it all right.
I think that would be in a vacuum. In a perfect scenario, it would be a quarter. But that has to.
No, that's statistics.
Has to factor
That's
in.
maths for you, by the way. It's maths.
Mathematically speaking.
It's maths.
He's saying,
Maths of
this is
probability.
like unarguable. Okay? He's saying if which is
You can guess that. It's I've just worked out already, so it's a maths probability.
if the chance of the claim being true is 50-50, 50% chance that it's true, 50% chance that it's not. What he's saying is the chance of them all being true, like let's say it's 20 events, is 1/2 to the power of 20, right? Which is very, very small.
Okay.
Right, 'cause exactly. For every single event to be true, it has to be a half times a half times a half. So all of the chances of being a half, right? So 1/2 to the power of 20. But the chance of one of them being wrong, that is extremely likely because only one of those halves need to be the other half, of the other side of the coin, basically. That's extremely likely. If you flip a coin 20 times, and I asked you, what's the chance that you get tails at least once? tails meaning false, that's really, really likely, right? But that didn't happen in the Quran. There are so many like things like this.
With your example, like if you toss a coin.
Before they came, he gave you an example about the mountains, the waves. I was speaking earlier about the bee. I saw on TikTok, someone mentioned that a bee has two stomachs, one with digestion, one with making honey, and the Quran mentions this. And I was talking to him about that, and he was like, "Oh, it could just be luck." But do you see the issue with that? Is that the fact that there's so many of these things, and some of them haven't happened yet.
So let's illustrate. Let's illustrate, Brother Umar, with an example. You have a dice which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? It's a normal dice.
Yeah.
And you throw it every time, and every time it comes with 1.
Yeah.
He looks at it, normal, 1. Everyone here throws it at 1. No magnet, nothing. If everyone did that, and we did that 20 times, it's 1. Would you say this is just a luck, or there's something fishy going on?
I'd say we'd have to check what table we're on.
Exactly. So that's when the Quran gets everything right, when the possibility is it should got all of it wrong by guesswork, only one chance to get it right, and it gets all of them right. So it's something else going on there, not guesswork.
I think my investigation then would rest on, I'd like to know what his knowledge was at the time then.
Excellent. That's precisely our point.
But I would be looking for environmental factors.
Exactly.
His
All environment. All the knowledge of that time, in Arabia, in Rome, in Persia, all around, and you'll find the information that we are presenting to you, information was not known. To give you an example.
Just to tie up, because we can give examples after examples. I mean, it's for you to do your research, right?
Yeah.
The reason why Mansur is giving the example of the phone, and the reason why you were denying that, was he was pointing out the obvious, that if it's obvious that the phone has some type of level of information that necessitates a creator and a designer, and that which is more complicated than that necessitates a designer and a creator. And so when we push that all the way back to the beginning of the universe, and remember we spoke about the fundamental constants within the universe, it's obvious that the universe, which is far more complicated than the sum of the parts that they're in,
You're not with any of these companies,
a designer and a creator
Dawahwise.
whose knowledge and power
Dawahwise.
attributes are far greater than the ones that we attribute to the maker of the phone, or the DNA that we find within our body, or the fly, etc., etc. In other words, information from the beginning of the universe didn't decrease. It increased exponentially as the world became more and more complicated.
Okay.
So we have to account for that somehow.
Yeah.
To the point where we, as Muslims, we have the Quran, which has information in it. Okay. Now we go beyond the fly, we go beyond the phone, we now have the Quran which has information in it. And we go through the Quran, we look at the explanations of various things that take place in the world, and we come away with the obvious conclusion that there has to be an intelligent being behind this that implanted this information in the Quran. So it's all about information.
But there's one thing that essentially needs to talk about guesswork, right? You know, currently America and Iran, and they're fighting, right? Okay. Imagine I said, like, the English and the French, imagine I said, they are going to fight and bring into a war in 2 years' time, and then French will lose, and then 5 years later, they will regain victory. If I just told you right now, what is the likelihood this will happen from what you know about geopolitics?
Who would win? Sorry. I mean, unless...
So French loses in 2 years and then wins back again 5 years later.
England versus France. England versus France. I don't rate our odds. We're a small country these days.
But can you think, like, how can I even guess such a thing, right?
That specific event.
If I told you, you'd say, like, how can you even guess such a thing?
I'd be surprised how you guessed it,
Yeah, exactly. So the Quran has a chapter called Surah Al-Rum, chapter number 30, Surah 30. It starts with saying, غُلِبَتُ الرُّوم. The Romans have been defeated. في أدنى الأرض 30. So the Romans have been defeated in the nearest land, or the lowest land, but then soon they will regain victory in a period of bid'i sinin, Arabic word, 3 to 9 years. And the believers will rejoice. These were the two superpowers at that time. The Romans and the Byzantines and the Persians.
Okay, that doesn't mean anything. The Romans have been defeated. This is like talking about, this is what he's referring to.
Yeah, just read the first 4 ayat.
Okay, the Roman Alif Lam Mim. The Romans have been defeated in a nearby land. Yet, following their defeat, they will triumph. Within 3 to 9 years, the whole matter rests with Allah before and after victory, and on that day, the believers will rejoice.
Right.
At the
So
victory
you have
by Allah. He gives victory to whom He wills, for He is the Almighty, the Most Merciful.
Sure. So you have now someone in Arabia, which is nothing compared to Byzantine Empire and Persian Empire, two superpowers of the day. They're fighting each other for a long time. And the Quran is saying the Romans are now defeated, so it's a common knowledge to everyone. The Romans were defeated at that time, but it goes by saying that's not the end of them. Within 3 to 9 years, they will regain victory and people will be happy, rejoicing. How does one actually predict such an event like this? What if the next year the Romans were victorious? What if 20 years later it took them to regain victory? What if they never regain victory? Then the Quranic information will be outright false. Easy, right?
Too specific.
Didn't you give a very wide range of
3 to
years?
9 years.
though?
No,
Yeah, I have a question.
that's what I'm saying. What if they regain victory 2 years later? What if they regain victory 15 years later, or never regain victory at all? There's so many possibilities.
You'd have been wrong then, I guess.
It would have been wrong.
The Quran would have been wrong. And the believers who are supposed to rejoice, they will reject the Quran. But guess what happened? It happened exactly within this time frame. Why? Because there were lots of fighting between them in this time period. It's not like one event, many events.
War of attrition.
Does that seem reasonable to predict a war with an end in that amount of time?
Why?
Oh, the French will regain victory in 7 years after losing in 2 years, right?
They began it.
Okay, I have a question.
They began
as a
at
Muslim.
the-
Why is it
the third year.
specifically 3 to 9 years? Why is
Exactly.
it not 5 years?
Because within the time frame there are lots of attritions, smaller wars happening, and eventually they lost the last stronghold, and that's it. They sealed their fate.
Right at the juncture of the 9th year,
Right.
the Romans gained victory decisively with the Persian emperor. What's his name? The second.
Is it Khosrow or something?
Something like that.
I can't remember.
Him actually being defeated, running away essentially.
Okay, so from my understanding, it's because if it was specific, someone may argue that it was before.
That's a good question.
Is that what it is?
But think about it in the following way. The reason why Mansur is giving one example after another is because of the absolute claim that the Quran gives. I don't think we should have touched upon this. The Quran is saying that this is from the one who has knowledge of all things, past, present and future. The Quran is saying that if you believe that this book isn't from God, if you believe this is from the man Muhammad who was an illiterate, right? Couldn't read or write, he was unread, unlettered, whatever, then the stakes are so much more higher. All you need is one single mistake to disprove the absolute claim. Because absolute claims are the be-all and end-all, 100%. No 99, no 95 or anything like that, it's 100%. So when you look at it in that way, what the Quran is doing is putting all of its eggs into one basket for you. So the Quran is giving you a reality of the war that took place between the Romans and the Byzantines and the Persians. And it's saying that the war will start between the 3rd year and it will end at the 9th year. During that time there was constant battles taking place. The Persians actually stole the great golden cross of the Romans. This is something sacred to them.
I saw that in Kingdom of Heaven.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
So in other words, it was very, very precise in terms of the longevity of the war. It wasn't just a case of they're going to win at year 9. They gave you a starting date and the end date to the actual attritional war.
So it's not really a vague statement, it's actually very precise, because what if they regain victory 12 years later? It will be falsified. So imagine if I said, you know what, Daniel will never wear a cap which is green in color.
Yes.
And I made that public to you. You know what, this is my bet, I challenge you, I dare you. He could easily prove me wrong by wearing a green cap, right?
I've got one at home.
Yeah, but what if, knowing that, and I made a public challenge, he fails to wear a green cap? Then how do I make that kind of prediction?
You might argue that there's some divine intervention.
There's something that I have access to that tells me that I know the future.
Yeah.
That's precisely what the Quran talks about a particular individual nicknamed Abu Lahab, that he will die as a disbeliever and he will go to hellfire.
Yeah.
When this was given, this prophecy, if you want to call it, he lived, guess how long to falsify the Quran? The opportunity he had, 10 years. Within this 10 years, you could have just said, I believe, now I'm a Muslim. You could have done that. but he did not. When many hundreds and thousands of people became Muslims, but him, never.
Well, he had the opportunity to edit it.
He had the opportunity to become a Muslim, and then he would not go to hellfire, right?
While he was alive.
Okay.
While he was alive,
Become Muslim.
Yeah.
And all he had to do was become Muslim, and the Quran would have been
it
false.
would be false.
Bear in mind that he
Now imagine like you were that person with the green cap analogy. You could have just disproven Islam by wearing the green cap.
Yeah.
But the fact that you didn't kind of says a lot.
especially if you hate Islam to the
At
point
that
where you're looking
point-
for excuses.
That's the
At
point
that
important.
point, it's not just luck. It's not
That
just
individual-
one of the two to the power 20
Yeah.
chance.
Why didn't he become?
That individual hated Islam.
That's a good question. So why didn't that person become Muslim?
He hated the
Because
Muslims so much.
the future is known to God who would believe and who would not believe. He was just declaring as a declarative statement, this is the outcome of this individual.
Is that not a safe bet to make? Someone who
No,
hates Muslims won't become one?
it's not like that. God is giving an example, a scenario. This individual is so much hateful, but God is saying, look, God knows the future. He knows the outcome of this individual or that individual, and this person will never go to heaven, will go to hell. Now, if he was so hateful individual, trying to disprove Islam so much, they went to war. You know that they tried to eliminate the Muslims by fighting them. Instead of simply by saying, yeah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, by becoming a Muslim, he lived for 10 years or so until he died as a non-Muslim. What prevented him from, even as a hypocrite, inside doesn't believe, but outwardly by saying that? Then he would have falsified.
Actually, it's a double prophecy. It says that both he and or his
Wife.
will never accept Islam, and it says that they will go to hellfire and burn in hellfire.
Did they burn in hellfire?
But they didn't accept
They didn't
Islam.
accept
So
Islam.
according to Islamic teaching, that's where they will end up.
You know what they did instead? Rather than doing the easier thing, eminently easier, which is pretend to be a Muslim. There you go. You predicted I'm not going to become a Muslim. I become a Muslim, or my wife, you know what, dear, become a Muslim, and then tomorrow we'll just, like a hypocrite, renege back to our...
There were people who liked that.
Atheists.
They just outwardly professed Islam, inwardly didn't. He could have done that.
There were Christians who went to Japan to try and convert the populace, and they failed and were
Yeah.
crucified.
Yeah. So Daniel, just very quickly, what would be easier, to do that, or to place yourself and your children and your future on the line by going to war with someone? What would be the easier thing? Spilling blood, or just professing, I become a Muslim now?
I mean, there is a logical, easier way to go about things, but humans aren't always acting in logical ways.
Okay, so what makes the Quran place everything into one basket? What would motivate a person who's trying to win the favor of people by making an absolute claim, this is from God himself,
Falsifiable, potentially.
claim, potentially falsifiable?
What's their motivation for making all these claims?
Knowledge
The
from
people who wrote the Quran, no?
people
Is that what you're asking?
received. The Prophet received the Quran
Yeah.
and gave it to the people.
Yeah.
So the motivation is a declaration about where this information is coming from. The all-knowledgeable, the all-wise God, the Creator.
Yeah.
So the Creator is telling you He's in control. Like, you are not going to accept Islam. You know, proof-
I.e., we're true, our religion is true, yours is false.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ours is from God himself, the one that knows all things. Yours isn't. And here's our evidence.
Yeah.
And these are claims that can falsify the absolute claim of the Quran.
Have you heard about the Quranic challenge?
No.
There's a linguistic challenge of the Quran. That Quran challenges of whole of the creation, human beings and the unseen world, jinns, to bring even a small surah, a chapter of the Quran, which is like 3 lines only, to imitate something like it without asking God's help.
Okay.
Why are people failing? There are hundreds of examples in the internet, and the people fail to bring and
Challenges you to write something like it.
Okay. In like what? Like in terms of writing style, or like a fact that?
so let me illustrate with an example. The Arabs at that time, they were very, very proficient and good masters of rhetoric and eloquence, the linguistic skills. They would recite poetry. To give you an example, if you heard their poetry about describing a woman,
Yeah.
you'd fall in love with her. If they described about some sadness and sorrow, tears will flow from your
I'm
eyes.
not a very emotive person.
No, but that's the power of their poetry. That's what used to happen. If you hear them describing about like commotions between two tribes and they're raging you about to fight them, you will leave everything and let me go. Where's my sword? Where's my this? Let me start fighting. That's how it will transform you internally and externally. The power of language that they had mastered. The best of the poems are hang on the wall of the Kaaba. That's what it is. So they took pride in two things: the birth of a male child and the creation or composition of a poetry. In this particular milieu or this particular time frame, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was known to them as someone who's never learned the art of reading and writing, never been to school, anyone. They know because it's a small community. Every day they know each other. And yet at the age of 40 years, he comes with the Quran and they're saying, how is he even speaking something like that? They could not explain it. How did he even utter things like this? It's impossible to imitate something because it's not like their known poetry or prose or the sayings of the soothsayers. So the Quran challenged them when they said like, oh, he just copied, it's a tales of the ancients. He's just talking about Noah, Prophet Noah, Moses or things. Oh, these are the stories of the ancients and fables. Quran says, if you really think this is so, bring something like it. Produce a chapter like it. If you can't do it yourself, get your helpers and supporters to do this job besides God, if your doubt is true. At that time, being the masters, why did they fail? When they could just produce poetry, just like, rap poetry. What's it called? Rap music.
Yeah, the rap battles.
Rap battles. You say something in rhymes and meters, and I say in response. That's what they used to say. So when the Quran was uttered,
Who did they challenge?
The poets.
poets challenging themselves.
In every corner of the world?
No.
Within Arabia, this is their culture. When the Quran came to them in that language, the language of Arabic, they could not imitate anything like it.
But just to also explain,
They do it again today? Would that have the same?
No one is able to do it today.
if the masters couldn't do it, and the Quran then became the de facto standard, who's left?
Who judge?
Who is the judge of?
Excellent question. They can be their own judge. Do you know why? Because the Quran has a particular stylistics. If I say, bring a cap like Daniel's Levis white cap, and I bring this, there you go. He will say,
It's not similar enough.
look, I can be the judge and say, failed, because that cannot be like that, because I know what it's like that. It has a particular shape, texture, color, and so on and so forth. So when the Quran says bring something like it, in the Arabic language, in the stylistics of a particular chapter of the Quran, in the way it is. So it's self-explanatory. And when people go deep into the stylistics, they realize they cannot bring anything like it because the meaning will be changed in such a way you won't be able to speak in that language anymore.
I can only say that I was read a verse of the Quran yesterday, and to me, on memory of it, I would compare it to poetry I've read, and I would prefer that poetry.
But you read English translation, you did not look at the structure, which is the key to this challenge.
Can I make a point?
It's only to do with the Arabic. Also, the question that you've asked, who judges it, doesn't stop them from at least trying.
Yeah. Critics of Arabic language will judge.
The fact is that they didn't even bother.
They didn't try?
They didn't even try. And the Quran tells them that you will.
Are you seeing today?
They didn't even imagine just doing it for the sake of.
Then I am hiding
propaganda.
maybe.
It sounds like a losing scenario then if you try them.
Yes, because they were so incompatible. Remember, these are Arabia at that time was in the middle of a desert. They were a very localized community. Their language had become very purified over a period of centuries. There wasn't, unlike some of the big cities where you have different cultures and you have different languages, different dialects. It becomes diluted. The Arabic language had become concentrated in terms of its purity.
Let's give an example. Imagine now, he said, okay, you can't run faster than me. I am the fastest. And you saw me running so fast, then I said, let's come to a challenge. You, knowing that you're going to fail, you'd stay behind, wouldn't you?
If I felt like defeat was inevitable, yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
But what if you had two choices?
Yeah.
You either, even though you know you'll never be able to beat Mansur because he's a live for Christie or whatever,
Yeah.
you had two choices. You either race him or we'll throw you in jail.
Yeah.
You either try or we'll throw you in jail. What would you rather do?
Try, I would try.
You would try, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So they went to war rather than try. What does that tell you about the challenge?
Who went to war?
The Arab polytheists
The
at that
enemies
time.
of the Muslims at that time.
The people.
They persecuted them, didn't work.
Okay.
They kicked them out of their own city, it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then they went eventually to war.
I mean, they might have many motivations for not trying to write something similar to the Quran. Maybe it was offensive.
So easy to disprove,
Maybe
and they didn't
felt
go to the.
insulted that they were
No,
taking on a challenge by their enemies.
Why would the people who are willing to kill their own mother and father or their own daughters, kick them out of their home, feel shy about mimicking a book?
I don't think they would see it as shyness. I think that would be subjective to them why they refuse the challenge.
Think about the challenges. It would be
You're missing one point. They thrived in their honor of poetry. Like you challenging me for a rap battle? Do you know who I am? Bring anything, I will respond. And to lose something is like losing your honor. Honor is something that they had so much pride in. So when the Quran challenged them, they would be up for it. What? You're challenging us,
Remember, it
the
comes
best
from a man who
poets?
couldn't read and write.
And from someone exactly
it would be
who
like
doesn't
Mansur.
know how to read and
It
write.
would be Mansur going to Eminem and saying, you know, I can beat you.
Yeah, it's like a turtle challenging a hare, right? Robert, yeah, you can't beat me. But we know why the hare lost, because of
Just to mention, just for context, the reason like these poetry like is so deep, and you mentioned earlier how you read the Quran in English and it didn't really like do much for you.
I listened to it, yeah.
All right, yeah. So one thing is when you translate Arabic language, it's so much more complex than English. Like for example, what there might be one word for something, there are like 20 different words that are all slightly different. For example, love, you just say I love you, right? Where in Arabic,
I think they said there was like 6 million in it.
in Arabic there are so many different words for it. They're all slightly different. Like you use them in different contexts. Like for example, I might say I love you like as a brother of mine, as a friend, right? Or you might say it to someone that you respect as an older. I don't speak Arabic, right? But the point is that there are really like small differences between all of those words that mean the same thing in English. All of those words you just translate to love, and that's why their poems were so deep, because they really hit get their point across in a deep way.
In fact, the two most complicated languages on earth are Mandarin and Arabic. Mandarin and Arabic.
And
Is Arabic tonal? Is it tonal?
What do you mean by tone?
Oh, well, Chinese is tonal. Like the way you say it changes its meaning.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, every
The way
language
you
has
say
to some
it?
extent.
Yeah, so you might say...
Like, so you see how you said the way you said that.
It's like when you say
you could
hello,
say-
but
yeah, you
you
could say
in
that.
Chinese, if you said hello, it might mean something.
Yeah, there are words like that.
Okay, cool.
But what we're doing here, we're putting across a cumulative evidence of the truth of the claim of the Quran. So we spoke about aspects of the world, the sciences, and so on and so forth. We spoke about prophecies. The Prophet himself also, he had some extraordinary prophecies. Have you heard of Nostradamus?
I have heard of it. I forget what he's about.
So he's like a prophet from back in the day, right?
Oh.
He wrote quatrains, 4 poems.
Alhamdulillah. Excuse me.
Were apparently supposed to be prophecies of events that are going to take place. But if you read them, they are so obscure that they could be applied to half a dozen times and locales.
Yeah.
If you look at the prophecies of Prophet Muhammad, however, then you recognize what a true prophecy is from a true prophet. So he speaks about prophecies that will take place during his time, immediately thereafter, and also some of the more profound prophecies towards what we refer to as towards the Day of Judgment.
Eschatological.
My only
Eschatological.
comparison in my experience in my life that I've seen for that is someone will tweet something like 10 years ago and they'll make 50 different tweets predicting something.
Yeah, so-
and then when it comes true 10 years later, they delete all the ones that were wrong.
So let's give you one, just one. I find it quite profound. I rationally can't wrap my head around it as to a natural explanation, right? And I don't think anyone else here can either. The Prophet, he gave a prophecy where he said that the Day of Judgment won't come until the lands of Arabia, they return to becoming rivers and meadows. So we're talking about the entire Arabian Peninsula. We're not talking about the monsoons that take place in the north of Arabia.
Yeah.
Now, he says two things. They will return to becoming meadows and rivers and meadows, right?
Yeah.
Just like they were before.
Okay.
Implying it was at one point before like that.
So obviously, Arabian Peninsula being a desert during the time of the Prophet,
Yeah.
and being a desert thousands of years before that. Do you know the last time it was rivers and meadows with hippos and elephants and this, that, and the other?
No.
It was during the Holocene period, around 7,000 BCE.
Okay.
And then he gives a prediction. He says, and it will return to becoming like that.
Does he give a date for a time?
No,
No, he said day of judgment will happen.
but he said
These are the signs
The
of
signs
the
before the day of
impending day of judgment.
right?
Day of judgment will happen after that happens.
These events are signs for the next thing, big thing happening.
Other round. So, the day of judgment will happen after the desert goes from a desert like full of sand.
It will return to becoming greenery and pasture.
Yeah, judgment comes later, but these are signs that follows. So once you know these things are happening, you know, coming towards the end.
But look how specific the prophecy is. The land itself will become not just a small portion that someone might be able to guess at, not like the north, or maybe some information came down to him that monsoons take place every annually or 4 years or whatever. No, the whole of Arabia. Now, it's specific, unlike the quatrains of Nostradamus, because the only time since his life and the time now that the lands of Arabia are showing greenery is today. Or around 30, 40 years ago.
So what, the day of judgment is close?
No, the point is, how did he know that it was on one point like this and it will return again like that? Where is the information coming from?
What's the
Like,
probability
it's very, very bizarre. Like, imagine I made the same claim to you. I was like to you, oh, London will be a desert. Like, it would be quite bizarre to make that. You know?
It would be unexpected, yeah.
Right.
I'd expect some sort of
If I made that
climate
claim,
change.
would you think that's bizarre?
I think it'd be a bit bizarre, yeah.
Right,
I
exactly.
wouldn't know how you come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Right. So how did you?
I wouldn't know. I don't know where you got his information.
That's exactly what the Quran wants you to think.
Yeah, no, I'd say back in the day they used to carry stories on like songs and like passed down.
They have nothing like that recorded history. So
just
the
say-
information that we are giving, many of this information are like that. It's not impossible that certain things are like this. You know, we're not saying the Quran brings all new information, because Quran talks about the historical past. But the issue is, how does the Quran talk about all of these things and the Prophet all those things? Bizarre, amazing, fantastic, and all of them are correct and right. That's
Some still have to come true though.
and remember your point. Remember your point about someone making 20 tweets and then one tweet came back and did it in the 19 or something. The Quran, what he said, what is given. So there is nothing about like editing process of like, oh, anything that's wrong to take it out.
But the ones that haven't been proven true yet. Do
Like
those
what?
not count as wrong, but you like to think more positive.
There are
No. When the Prophet ﷺ said something will come in the future, like for example, the barefooted Arabs, Bedouins, will be building tall skyscrapers and competing. Mention that. 300 years ago, no one could see the barefooted Bedouin means they're not even wearing shoes and sandals. And how are they going to compete building tallest buildings? 300 years ago, there was nothing like that. No Arabs were doing that. But now, who's making the tallest buildings and competing against each other?
Are we talking about like Saudi Arabia?
Dubai and elsewhere. Yeah, the same people, the same Bedouins, same nomads who didn't have shoes 300 years ago, colloquially speaking. How does the Prophet know these things will happen? That's why I'm saying information of this nature should make us think critically. Like, I'm looking for evidence. Oh God, show me evidence that you exist. Show me evidence the Quran is true. Show me evidence the Prophet is a true Prophet. It's all in front of me.
Did he make any modern prophecies, like say, like something
Yeah,
specific? Like
there'll be a
creation
time
of
when
an iPhone?
it will rain and it will burn.
That seems a little vague to me.
Vague? Have you heard of acid rain?
I think acid rain probably would have existed pre-modern days, no?
Do you have evidence that it happened in Arabia?
In a
That's what we're talking about.
enough about
We're
acid rain, maybe
yeah.
acid rain.
Acid rain happens when?
Basically, from my understanding, it's called like pollution.
Exactly.
So basically,
Industrialization.
The more pollutants there are, the more the water that obviously the water cycle happens, right? And the more pollutants that the water takes into the sky, and then that basically, when the water drops again, it will have a higher pH or a lower pH.
Why would that?
But obviously,
Oh, go on.
no.
I was going to say, why would that specifically be acid rain? Like, could you infer that maybe it was raining and there was a forest fire? You know,
No, a rain that burns is.
How can there be a forest fire?
Look,
but you said rain and burn.
no, rain that burns.
Rain that burns.
Rain that
Rain
burns.
that burns.
Yeah, because remember, the Prophet is speaking to someone who doesn't understand acid or things like modern technology, like
Really hot rain, which doesn't really make sense.
I've never heard of that, but
No, that doesn't make sense.
I would have ruled it out.
No, but that doesn't really make sense because if the water was hot, it would stay steam and stay up there. But the fact that clouds condense and then form, it kind of eliminates, temperature. And that leaves you with pH. And pH, we understand through science, from what we understand. When the pollutants, dissolve in the water, the pH of the water lowers, and then that falls on people. We know this is true. We know this happens around here.
There'll be a time in the future, the Prophet said, that people will be speaking to some with their thighs.
Yeah.
What's an apple?
There you go.
Anyway.
Wait, you said speaking with their thighs, is that what you said?
Remember what he's trying to do, explaining in the simplest language to people of things of the future. He can't use things, they'll be speaking on their mobile phones. What's a mobile phone?
So that would be very convincing.
They wouldn't even know what a phone is. How can it be convincing?
The Prophet, like the one I mentioned, until rivers and meadows return to the lands of Arabia.
Yeah.
Umar ibn al-Khattab, he's saying that slave girl will give birth to a mistress, and you will see barefoot, naked, dependent shepherds compete in the construction of tall buildings. Some of the scholars have said that the slave girl is in relation to how daughters will command their mothers, and their mothers will obey them. Again, one of his companions, Abu Sa'id, saying that, Khudri saying that, by the one in whose hand is my soul, the hour won't come until the beasts speak to humans. The reason why I've highlighted that is because only recently we shared this in one of our groups, where they were saying that they're using AI to decipher the languages of octopi, of dolphins, and the bonobo, which is like a type of ape, and it's extraordinary.
Does that happen? Have we used?
Apparently, they're getting there. They're getting there. I mean, the apes, for instance, we have that old ape that passed away about 10 years ago. It was able to communicate through sign language. It had a language vocabulary equivalent to a 7-year-old. So it was quite stunning. The tip of the man's whip and the strap of his sandal will speak, and his thigh informs him of what his family has done in his absence. So we've got 4 prophecies there in one. So what he's essentially doing here is giving you before the hour. So many of these prophecies, some of our scholars have said, are coming true today.
These are more recent ones that you asked.
Yeah.
And there's some other ones as well.
Would you not agree that there could be interpretation on what the meaning of a thigh informing of your family could be?
Yeah, it could be. There could be, but the question then arises when you bring the cumulative evidences together.
Yeah.
You ask yourself, is it the case that the thigh hasn't communicated? Remember, Mansur said that this is in the way the Prophet would have spoken in a simple way to convey the information, right? In a simple way, but one that is comprehensive in meaning. So then you ask yourself, well, does it go against what we know?
Okay.
Well, these are prophecies, so it may come true either years from now, or 10 years or 100 years.
Yeah.
But the ones that have come true, these are part of the cumulative evidence that we have.
Okay.
That when they do come true, we immediately remember the specific prophecy that the Prophet gave us.
Okay.
So that's the point that we're trying to
So
make.
let's wrap this up. We've discussed you earlier on before we came in. Sorry to interject in your discussion, but I think we had a nice conversation and we learned a lot of things.
Yeah, I've learned so much.
So we talked about in terms of how we can use our critical thinking to come to informed choices, make our own conclusions based on examining and analyzing what's all around us, but using tools that are appropriate and that are valid. We're not using just emotional belief and my gut feeling. We're using our intelligence, our logic, rationality, reasons, critical thinking, all of that, and assessing the evidence accordingly, not taking a priori assumptions and taking everything axiomatic and by brute fact. We looked at the evidence, we looked at probabilities and possibilities, logical possibilities of God not existing and God existing, which one makes more sense? The universe being always eternal and not requiring another explanation. We went through all of these alternative explanations and we analyzed and we assessed in terms of their explanatory scope, which one is better in its explanatory scope, which one gives us more reasonable explanation, more sensible explanation, because that's what we are seeking for. And so far we examined in terms of theistic, being one God, makes sense, only one necessary being. And Islam, we brought in the Quran, the prophecies about the Prophet and so on and so forth. So it's up to you how you take in this information, how you assess this information and reflect on it. All we are seeking is, be open and critical minded and ask yourself, which seems more reasonable, Because as I said, when you're hungry, you won't just simply be, I can't make up my mind, I don't know.
Very indecisive sometimes.
Yeah, but we are suggesting don't be like that because you need to eat food to survive. So don't go without food for 7 days, right?
Daniel, listen. I need to go.
That's it.
But listen, there's a present from us to you.
I appreciate it really.
Take it, Daniel. Trust me, take it. Have a read through it. At least, even if it sits on your shelf for a number of days or months or years, it doesn't matter. It's our present to you.
Free gift.
Honestly, it's very kind, but I'm perfectly. I don't want to put you to the trouble.
Is there a trouble?
I know, but it would imply that maybe I'm.
No, it doesn't imply anything.
It doesn't imply anything.
It's only between us giving a present to you that you stood there.
Impression that I might use it.
Daniel, if you want to throw it away, that's entirely between you and your Lord. We're just giving it to you because you spent time with us, and it's our present to you as a thank you.
I promise, if I do take an interest, I will get a Quran. I promise.
That's all right.
If I do
Thank you for your time, Daniel. All the best.
Thank you for your time. Pleasure speaking to
Maybe
you.
we'll see you again
And you, my
sometime.
brother.
You in
Assalamu
London?
alaikum.
I'm not. No, this might be a rarity. It might be regular. Who knows?
From Oxford,
Yeah. And beyond.
Okay.
Are you off there now?
آخر دعوانا